선장이 침몰해 장병 46명이 실종됐습니다.
Effect, but I think the authoritative source here would be the South Korea.
北朝鮮が関与した可能性は低いと見られています。
사고 당시 미처 밖으로 빠져나오지 못했을 가능성이 높습니다.
30여 년 만에 최악의 참사입니다.
When I heard the news for the first time, I thought it was just an accident. I could not have imagined the upcoming security crisis and fear of war. All of a sudden, I heard a huge boom and felt my body flying through the air. Then the power shut down. I can say with certainty that there were no unusual signs before the incident.
군 당국의 발표는 오락가락 그 자체였습니다.
At first, it was all a mystery. The cause of the sinking could only be found after salvaging the vessel.
인양 작업은 선체를 수면 가까이 끌어올려 배치 작업을 마친 뒤 바지선에 옮기는
On the night of March 26th, crew members of the South Korean naval warship Cheonan wrapped up an ordinary day, unaware of the tragedy on the horizon. Those were the last known moments on the ship, and the reason for the ship's sinking remains unknown. The Cheonan, a patrol combat corvette, sank southwest of Baekneon Island. The South Korean government put together a joint civilian-military investigation group that included representatives from the United States, Great Britain, Sweden, and Australia, and launched a full-scale investigation after salvaging the sunken vessel. On May 20th, the investigation group released their findings and pointed to North Korea as the culprit. The day fell just 2 months after the incident, and also coincided with the official launch of the June 2nd municipal elections campaign season.
The Cheonan was sliced and sank due to an underwater explosion, which was followed by a shock wave and bubble jet effect. The weapon was confirmed to be a highly explosive 250-kilogram torpedo manufactured by North Korea.
The investigation team put together its narrative of what happened that night. The Cheonan, while guarding the west coast of Baekneon Island, was ambushed by a North Korean Yeonho-class submarine that had penetrated deep into the West Sea. The submarine then launched a heavy torpedo, which exploded just below the midsection of the ship, splitting the warship in two. Their conclusion, however, has remained the subject of intense controversy.
가장 지금도 설명이 되지 않는 부분이 스크류 부분입니다. 그 스크류가
상당히 심각하게 손상되어 있습니다. S자 형태로 휘어 있습니다.
두 군데에서 다량의 흡착 물질을 채집하였습니다.
The sample contains aluminum 203. Oxygen intensity should be much weaker than aluminum. The ratio should be 0.23. Very different from the value.
위의 도면은 북한 어뢰의 설계 도면으로 프로펠러 추진 후부 샤프트 기어박스 추진 모터로
2145, 2130, 2122.
최초의 가장 중요한 요소인 사고 발생 시간과 장소가 아직까지도 확정이 되지 않은 것이고
백색 섬광 기둥을 관측했다는 진술 내용 등은 물기둥 현상과 일치하였습니다.
누구도 물기둥을 본 사람이 없어서 물기둥 없이 어떻게 폭발이 가능했는가에 대한 설명이 지금도 없는 상태입니다.
그 물기둥이 있었다는 근거로 매우 믿기 힘든 얘기들을 했어요. 견시병의 얼굴에 뺨에 물이 조금 튀었다라든가.
Hankyoreh journalists obtained an exclusive copy of the Korean abstract of the report entitled Data from the Russian Naval Expert Group's Investigation into the Cause of the Sinking of the South Korean Naval Vessel Cheonan. The report was a marked contrast to the Joint Investigation Group's findings. The Russian team concluded that it was not a torpedo, but a floating mine in the water that was responsible for the ship sinking, and that before the explosion, the ship had run aground in shallow water. In other words, they believed that 2 accidents occurred before the sinking.
Once, the South Korean government surveyed the UN Security Council members about the Cheonan incident. At the time, Russia mentioned the possibility of an attack by North Korea. That prompted South Korea to invite Russian experts to conduct an independent investigation, in hopes that both of the investigating teams would reach the same conclusion.
Former U.S. Ambassador to South Korea Donald Gregg referred to the Russian naval experts' theory in an op-ed to the International Herald Tribune on August 31st. Gregg said, "When I asked a well-placed Russian friend why the report has not been made public, he replied, because it would do much political damage to President Lee Myung-bak and would embarrass President Obama."
I discovered that the well-placed Russian friend Mr. Gregg referred to is a high-level official. He or she has the authority to talk about the Russian report. Therefore, Mr. Gregg's column is in fact quite reliable.
The Russian team's report states that the vessel's propeller became entangled in a fishing net as it was sailing through the shallow waters off the coast of Baekneon Island. The ship likely ran aground, and it was this occurrence that was the first cause of the sinking. Lee Jong-il, CEO of Alpha Underwater Technology Corporation, specializing in shipwreckage recovery, with over 30 years of salvaging experience, has strongly stressed in his opinions that the shipwreckage points to the fact that the ship had run aground.
The condition of the shipwreckage shows a simple separation between the bow and the stern of the ship. When the ship hit the rock, the area struck sustained damage corresponding to the ship's 1,200-ton weight.
This computer graphic tracks the ship's path from 9:00 p.m. on March 26th to the moment of the incident. The military stated that the water level at the site of the sinking was more than 45 meters, which meant the ship had no chance of running aground. However, others told a different story. This is the handwritten statement of a Marine stationed on the coast of Baekneon Island. He is one of the 2 guards who spotted the white flash when the incident happened.
The Marine guards said they saw not a water column, but a white flash. After this was revealed, controversy was reignited.
The guards said there were 2 white flashes, and the one on the right was partially blocked by Dumujin Spur, a large projection of land located unmistakably northwest from the guards' watch station. The Joint Investigation Group, however, designated the location of the sinking as southwest, an entirely different direction. Shallow waters are located next to Dumujin Spur, leaving open the possibility that the ship ran aground. Guards at the watch station have an unobstructed view, leaving little chance that the guard misidentified the area.
The Coast Guard saw something to the north, but the Joint Investigation Group purposely reported it as the south. This was a fabrication.
The guard's next statement was even more surprising. At 9:30 that night, 180 degrees and 3 kilometers due south of the post, he spotted a Navy vessel rescuing the stranded patrol combat corvette, the Cheonan. He said that the site was close to the coast and in shallow waters. The guard referred to the ship as having run aground.
He was looking at a completely different place. He could not have been mistaken, because he continuously observed from his post, and there was nothing to block his vision. He has also confirmed this statement to date.
National Assembly lawmaker Choi Moon-soon of the main opposition Democratic Party investigated the site with several reporters, including Honey TV reporters. At the investigation site, they discovered reefs and sand dunes under the sea that were not marked on the map.
There are uncharted rocks near the coast of Baekneon Island. There are also small rocks marked on the sea map.
The report by the team of Russian experts mentioned another important factor previously unknown by the public. The last time recorded by the ship's CCTV was 9:17 p.m. Military authorities previously reported the final time code as 9:21 p.m. CCTV recording systems record images 1 minute after they occur, meaning the time code would register the incident as 9:22 p.m. The CCTV's time code served as important evidence in relation to the time of the incident.
In that case, if the CCTVs did shut down, it must have been collectively at 9:22. That is what the Joint Investigation Group stated.
The CCTVs on the Cheonan, like most CCTVs, have a precise time code on the screen, so that the time in which the camera recorded the image is both clear and visible. However, in the images submitted to the National Assembly Special Committee, the time code is missing.
차이가 나는 거는 카메라마다 시계가 내장돼 있어요. 내장된 시계서에 이제 이상이 오차 저장되는 그 컴퓨터가 있는데 컴퓨터상에 이제 미술 시간 오차.
Authorities stated that the final time code on the CCTV footage was 9:17 p.m. We contacted a CCTV expert to find out if their explanation was plausible.
1 in 1,000? The possibility is less than 1%. Why is the time 9:17, even though the real time was 9:22? It's a mystery to me.
The controversy went further. All of the cameras shut down at different times, and some of them even stopped at 9:13 p.m., at least 8 minutes earlier than the time recorded, according to the Joint Investigation Group.
CCTVs are supposed to shut down together, but each of them shut down at a different time. It is an unacceptable answer.
감지가 움직임이 감지됐을 때만 저장이 되도록 시스템상 돼 있다.
그렇게 돼 있으려면은 그 허사 있는 데는 계속 17분까지 지켰어야죠.
그러니까 그랬어야 되는데 왜 그랬는지 그거는 이제 우리가 시간 오차로밖에 판단이 안 돼요.
그러면은 디젤 기관실은 13분에 끊겼지만 20분 58초라고 봐야 되는데 이게 13분으로 끊겨 있는 걸로 시간 오차가 되어 있는 거다.
They say that the recorded times of 9:13, 9:17, and 9:22 all occurred at 9:22? That just doesn't make sense.
Military sources also did not release all of the footage. They announced that only 6 of the 11 cameras were restored, but the company responsible for the restoration gave a different statement.
9시에서 9시 반 사이에 있는 데이터를 우선적으로 이제 살리셨으되 순차적으로 그 이후에 어쨌든 그 안에 있었던 9시에서 9시 반뿐만 아니라 다른 모든 데이터도 다 복구를 하시긴 하신 거군요.
The military released these pictures as the last scenes captured by the CCTV footage. Here, sailors go about their daily routines, including exercise aboard the ship. This is the officer found on the bow of the ship, which was broken in two. This footage from the final moments of the ship shows him patrolling. However, all 5 sets of footage were taken not in the bow, but in the ship's stern. The officer wears a camouflage uniform in the video, but his body was recovered wearing a black winter uniform. These facts suggest that this footage was not taken from the last moments before the ship sank. Here, 2 officers work in the diesel engine room. Both would become fatalities of the incident. The body of one officer was discovered in the same room, but the body of the other was discovered in the crew cafeteria. The military declared that this was the last footage recorded aboard the ship, but the time code has disappeared from the footage. This could very well be footage of the ship's last moments, just as the military explained. But some believe it could also be the time between 9:13 and 9:17 p.m. What happened on the ship between these moments and the ship sinking remains unknown. Strangely, the time code on the CCTV recordings disappears right around the time of the incident reported by the South Korean Navy and Maritime Police to superiors a few days after the incident. The times were later disclosed by a television reporter. The Joint Investigation Group concluded that a torpedo from a North Korean submarine struck the ship and stated that there were no circumstances prior to 9:22 p.m. that were out of the ordinary. If any irregular situation transpired before 9:22 p.m., then the Joint Investigation Group's surprise attack theory should be reconsidered. In fact, the fragments of the No. 1 torpedo, the Joint Investigation Group's smoking gun, have been contested by experts since they were first introduced to the public on May 20th.
We carried out a thorough search of the area. 500 yards long and 500 yards wide, using the point of the explosion as the central point.
Questions remain about whether such a precise search was possible in the location where a trawler discovered the torpedo fragments. Lawmaker Choi and reporters discovered a 2,000-ton sunken vessel near the site of the sinking during their investigation.
I met the owner of the trawler that discovered the #1 torpedo. He said that the operation was not easy because he had to conduct the search while maneuvering around the ship.
The Joint Investigation Group said they believed the vessel was a merchant ship that had sunk over 60 years ago. They were already aware of the ship before the team led by lawmaker Choi discovered it, but decided not to announce it because it was unrelated to the Cheonan. Salvage experts, however, say its presence is significant in regards to the #1 torpedo fragments uncovered by the trawler.
The military insists that they located the torpedo beneath the incident area. There is a ship just 200 meters from the location, which means that they did not even search surrounding areas.
Salvage expert Lee Jong-il says that a trawl net must be more than 300 meters away from the ship to operate. The fragments of the #1 torpedo were discovered within 300 meters of the sunken vessel, meaning that it would have been nearly impossible for the trawler to uncover the fragments while avoiding wreckage from large vessels.
To recover the torpedo, the trawler must be 100 meters north of the sunken ship. In that case, there is no way the trawl net would have been able to avoid the sunken ship.
The Russian team also cast doubt on the #1 torpedo. They deduced that it had been underwater for more than 6 months, far longer than the Joint Investigation Group's estimation at 2 months. Moreover, the part of the torpedo theory they simply could not explain away was the shockwave that split the ship in two. When a torpedo explodes in the water, the primary impact is a shockwave which spreads through the water in the shape of a sphere. The water column produced by the gas bubble is the second effect of the explosion. The Joint Investigation Group explained that the water column was the main cause of the ship's split and was therefore highly publicized. The shockwave employs 53% of the explosion's energy. One expert that spoke on the condition of anonymity said that if the shockwave is 18 times stronger than g, the acceleration of gravity, the human body is unable to resist damage.
18G, 50G를 설정하신 거를 어떻게 그렇게 설명을 하셨는지 좀 설명을 해주시겠어요?
나사에서 실험한 아주 정해놓은 어떤 기준값이거든요.
The Joint Investigation Group concluded from their calculations that the explosion that split the Cheonan was equal to 200 to 300 kilograms of TNT. Expert Shin Young-sik, a member of the Joint Investigation Group, says that when an explosion takes place, the following would result.
100G까지 더 이상도 받을 수 있어요. 이 사람이 막 총알같이 날아갈 거야. 펑하고. 그러면 뭐 여기 부딪히고 저기 부딪히고 뭐 찢어지고 뭐 골절되고 그거에 맞아서 떨어지고 죽고 하는 게 그래서 그런 거죠.
This footage shows Cheonan survivors 2 weeks after the incident. With the exception of 2 to 3 crew members, they show little evidence of injuries and could not have sustained the 100G impact. The bodies of the deceased crew members are also nearly identical. The National Institute of Scientific Investigation, which conducted autopsies of the bodies, concluded that although some of them sustained bone fractures, the cause of death, without exception, was drowning. The explosive power of the #1 torpedo was in fact stronger than indicated on the Joint Investigation Group's interim report. The Joint Investigation Group detected HMX and RDX on the ship, both highly powerful explosives in comparison to TNT. After the interim announcement on May 20th, the Joint Investigation Group maintained that the scale of the explosion was between 200 and 300 kilograms of TNT. This was consistent with the seismic wave produced around Baekneon Island at the time of the incident. However, the final compiled data from the Joint Investigation Group's team of experts revealed that the scale of the explosion was in fact between 350 and 500 kilograms of TNT. This did not match the seismic wave measured at the time, meaning that the Joint Investigation Group's report contained significant inconsistencies. The Joint Investigation Group admitted its mistake and altered the scale of the explosion. They said that an explosion of 350 kilograms of TNT fit the rest of their data when they altered the simulation. Unsurprisingly, they could not give a clear explanation about the mismatch with the seismic wave data. The Joint Investigation Group previously presented the seismic wave data as strong evidence for the time and location of the incident. The explanation for the North Korean submarine torpedo launch was even more unclear than the explanation for the torpedo itself. According to South Korea's Ministry of Defense, the North Korean Yeonho-class submarine departed from its North Korean base and took a route through international waters that stretched about 300 kilometers in length. A member of the Joint Investigation Group told lawmaker Choi Moon-soon that the submarine's speed at 5 kilometers per hour meant that the journey took 2 days.
This means that the submarine traveled for 2 days and torpedoed a moving patrol combat corvette from far away with a single shot. Then, it took the same route back to North Korea for 2 days. This is not a fact, nor is it confirmed information. It is just widespread speculation. The speculation is that the submarine traveled all the way from and back to North Korea without getting caught by US or South Korea.
Some experts have drawn parallels between the Cheonan incident and the explosion aboard the USS Iowa. On April 19, 1989, the gun turret in the central gun room aboard the USS Iowa exploded, killing 47 of the turret's crew members. After a 3-month investigation, the U.S. Navy concluded that Clayton Hartwig, a crew member, had intentionally caused the explosion. News media at the time published stories focusing on a concocted failed romantic relationship with another male crew member and citing the criminal reasons for his actions. The United States Senate, however, criticized the results of the investigation. The Senate discovered that the Navy had failed to even properly preserve the site of the incident. They decided to conduct a reinvestigation and assign the task to Sandia Laboratories as an independent scientific study. After an investigation lasting nearly 2 years, the Navy admitted to their mistakes and apologized to Hartwig's family.
As demonstrated by a number of cases internationally, military authorities always try to fabricate incidents related to them. The attention of the people and the National Assembly is essential for revealing the truth. Therefore, there should definitely be a reinvestigation of them.
There has also been criticism from within and outside the Joint Investigation Group.
이걸 명쾌히 밝히려면은 사실 이걸 좀 더 지금 길게 잡아가지고 예산도 좀 투입하고 좀 면밀하게 처음부터 하나씩 다 짚고하는 게 저는 뭐 사실은 맞다고 봤습니다.
There were only 10 days to conduct an investigation at sea due to the inclement weather. That means that the Joint Investigation Group did not investigate any other possible causes of the incident, except for a torpedo attack.
존경하는 국민 여러분, 한반도 정세가 중대한 전환점을 맞고 있습니다.
After the sinking of the Cheonan, the United States and South Korea launched large-scale joint military exercises on the seas surrounding the Korean peninsula. As tensions escalated, China's Navy responded with their own military exercises, and North Korea fired artillery into the West Sea.
Some have called this the New Cold War. The sinking of the Cheonan occurred in the midst of a U.S.-China competition for global power. Since the incident, the South Korea, U.S., and North Korea-China alliances have entered a new era of confrontation.
South Korea's foreign policy has now become increasingly dependent on the United States, and as a consequence, North Korea's dependency on China is rising quickly.
The South Korean government used the sinking of the Cheonan incident for domestic political purposes. As a result, China has placed a check on South Korea through economic disadvantages. South Korea can no longer refuse the U.S. demands to join sanctions on Iran. I can now say that South Korea has been placed in a difficult position.
What was responsible for the sinking of the Cheonan? As of now, there is no definitive answer, but one thing is clear. The investigation of the sinking was incomplete, lacking in transparency, and even subject to political manipulation. The situation on the Korean Peninsula is far too critical to base far-reaching policy decisions on such a flawed investigation.